Good morning. Hello, hello. I hope your first 2 days and week of school have gone well. And I hope the introduction PowerPoints, if you were able to use them, I hope they were helpful in getting things going. And if nothing else, I'm hoping you can follow along with these. I know some of you are not yet teaching this particular course, and I hope that by viewing it each week and listening to my little kind of hints at how this could be used, maybe you'll start to feel really creative and see other ways that this can be beneficial. I hope so. And as part of my weekly message to you, I'm going to try to point out spaces where I've left you a lot of room on purpose to make this your own class. I don't want anyone to ever feel that their teaching is bound to this as other teaching scripts that we've been given are. I know, we get trained in things like literacy and math programs, and I don't want this to be like that. I really want you to be creative and feel that you can make this your own. And I don't want it to feel scripted in any way. So I wanted to make sure I said that right at the beginning of the course. So you'll see you have your objectives that you can go over with the students. And again, in however you would normally go over objectives with students, that's really up to you. Maybe not all of you even jump into that. So it's really your call. But these are the objectives from the CDA Council work that I've pulled from my own use of them and study of them. So I just wanted to explain a little more in depth about that. I've given you some suggestions about opening questions, but I know you'll have ones of your own because you'll know your students by now a little bit. And as you get to know them, these are just suggestions. I know some people really benefit from suggestions and other people really kind of can do their own thing and don't need that. So they're there for you if you want them. And certainly if you have a sub, then that person can use them. The same with the brainstorm pieces. And Erica very wisely said, what if you don't get a response? Great question. I love that we explored that. And you can do what you want with that. Sometimes when I get a blank stare from a brainstorm question, I immediately go into partner and small group works. That's another option. So that's why it's paired here together. You can see that you can go back and forth and straddle those and handle those in whatever way you want. And then we also talked about going ahead and jumping into the CDA Essentials readings and then going back. So you're reversing day 1 and day 2. And maybe that's the way you want to approach it. So again, please feel free to use these as guides and foundations for ensuring that we're covering content, basically. So as you can see, day 2 starts with a review of day 1. And again, a suggestion, if I think students do benefit from review. Maybe you don't do that as a practice and you don't feel that your students necessarily need it. So again, your call. Partner, small group, collaborate after the CDA Essentials pages can be really important because now they can go back and say, okay, we did this back here and now we're jumping ahead and looking at what have we learned so far. So this may happen, further down the week because you're jumping back and forth between the days. But it is really good for them to partner and collaborate on looking at all they've learned so far, because when they look at the CDA Essential book pages, that should really inform them. And while we're talking about the Essentials pages, you'll notice in the book their charts are in there. And those are what I used to send my students on field trips with. I would have them make a copy of the charts and go in specifically looking for those things in the center. I would always tell the center, we're going to be doing this assignment while we're there, so they're going to be looking at health and safety items in their checklists. And so that was something that was really effective, because then they saw it in a real space. So you might even go on the field trip and then jump back here, the class brainstorm. So these are just some ways I can see I might do it. I'm just trying to be helpful. But again, you're going to know best. You're going to know your students, and fool around with this as much as you want to, of course. As long as we're covering the content, and by the end of the week we've covered it, we're good. And that's how you can assign those 5 TRIS hours for this module, or lesson. So now you have your video, and again you have your video study guide, and again you're looking at them comparing and checking. Okay, now what do I know? I've brainstormed what I thought I knew. I've looked at what my partner and I have discussed. I've looked at the book. I've now watched a video. So, they're gradually building up some connection to this content. And again, your day begins with a review. And on the Toolbox Talk Day, I would recommend the review because it'll give them a context for this talk. So then you're going to go in and let them listen to me a little bit. And once you get to the end, let them do some reflection and talking about that. Now you're on day 4 and you're going into class reflection questions. So these are suggested questions. You may come up with others of your own, which is wonderful. Again, you know your students. And this is a private reflection space where they can use these questions to guide their thoughts, and you can add some, take some out. Again, these are suggestions, and I don't want you to feel like you're rehearsing for a script when you're looking through this as you listen to me. Then here's where you have complete freedom, of course, and that's to figure out some expressive reflection activity. I've focused here on visual arts because I really love for students to have that opportunity, and I know they don't always get that in high school. So, because oftentimes they don't necessarily choose art as a specialty area that they want to attend. But I think you can use these expressive pieces, whatever you decide they're going to be, whether it's a visual art piece like painting, collage, scrapbooking type art, whatever it is. You might decide to have them, let them write a poem, a story, a play, a puppet show, whatever, to demonstrate their knowledge, basically. So this, again, is looking at it as a formative assessment piece, as are all of the things they do throughout this process. Everything they document when they record what they're learning as notes can become formative assessment. And then on your last day, you'll share those. And I think in the sharing of these also, you're getting a verbal acknowledgement of content. You're having them express it artistically, and now you're able to hear them talk about their reflection. So all of this adds up for me to assessment. These are ways we can check in and make sure that we are hearing where they are with the content. And last but not least is the objectives check-in. And as I told you during the training day, this is up to you. If you want to use the content from the week and create a little pop quiz at the end of the week, whatever you want to do with it is fine. If you want to just talk about the objectives and ask them to evaluate themselves, I think that's always a really good idea. Sometimes I use objective check-ins and ask the students to create a test or a quiz that would test the knowledge of someone else. And so by creating the quiz, you're again seeing what did they get from this process. So I'm hopeful that this little most of the time these won't be as long, but I just wanted to make sure that I emphasized a few things that I am not certain that I made really clear. And don't hesitate to reach out if you have questions, and enjoy the week.